Alrighty, we are back, continuing the road to 150 streamed eliminator drafts, part two, our slow draft era. Um, and we have a couple of picks to make. A lot of Frenchies eliminators this morning. A lot of the eliminators are gone. You get to see the joy of me putting all of my little Dalmatian slows on auto draft because I cannot deal with all of them and doing eliminator slows. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make some quick picks. Probably gonna be another like 30-ish minute stream. Just make some picks, talk about my opinions on some of the scheduling stuff. Just going through a bunch of the teams, looking at their first 3 week schedule, their first 8 week schedule, and like thinking about how we should use that to impact our rankings of players in this format. Let's start with Frenchie Eliminator 3. Get that Puka pick on the board. I think very clearly. And then, yeah, these guys all have a little bit of time. The other thing I need to do is, it's been about a day. I need to enter another 10-ish slows, another 11, 8 hours per pick. Huzzah. So, let's take a look at the NFL scheduling for the first 3 weeks. I think I need to change what I am streaming so I can show the window and not just the tab. Yeah. So here we have the schedule grid. If I edit to the stage. There we go. We have the schedule grid. So I think a lot of what we're trying to do is just really identify the really, really bad matchups and the really, really good matchups. So I've been doing an FFPC draft recently, and I think some of the highest defenses taken there are probably good indicators of defenses that we want to be avoiding, if at all possible. And the defenses that I have there are the Rams, Denver, the Texans, the Seahawks, and let me make sure I have this correct. It was the Rams, the Texans, Denver, the Seahawks, the Chargers, and New England are the. And I think that those top four defenses are in a bit of a different category for me than the ones that are a bit down ballot. So I'm going to put like a little -2 for the Rams, the Broncos, the Texans, and the Seahawks, and a little -1 for the Chargers and the Patriots, and maybe Philly. Yeah, we'll do Philly too. Because, yeah, there's and even in the FFPC, there's like a big difference between Rams, Texans, Denver, Seattle, and Chargers, Philly, New England. None of them are good or defenses that you want to be facing, but just varying levels of bad. And then if we're looking at what we think are going to be bad defenses, that's a lot harder to just like have a like easy metric to point at. But I just want to be looking at bad teams that we think are going to have good offenses, because we know that means their defenses are probably going to be bad. I think topping that list is Arizona. I think Atlanta is like a possibility for this list. Cincinnati obviously has fit this a lot in the past. Dallas has fit this a lot in the past, even though the defense is getting better. Vegas could be fitting this. Miami is just a bad team. New Orleans is another one that I think people are probably overrating their defense a little bit. And then Washington. Those are teams that I want to be targeting. And I think of them, like the Arizona, Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Washington, I think, will give us a little like +2. And then Cincinnati, Dallas, and Vegas gives a little +1. Because I think Cincinnati, Dallas, and Vegas all have like really valid reasons that their defense could be a lot better than last year, or just coming from a better place than, you know, Washington, Atlanta, New Orleans, Miami, and Arizona. Because those teams could also just be bad and really, really helpful for these running games. So as we go when we're looking at these like early schedules, you can just go down the list and look at which teams have good schedules and bad schedules pretty easily. Like if you're looking at Arizona, Arizona is just like very clearly a stay away in the first 3 weeks. You have a -2 team in Seattle, you have a -1 team in the Chargers, and San Francisco's like fine. And then it's not like their next stretch before week 8 gets any easier, really. You have to deal with Denver and the Rams. Week 9 is Seattle, which is all awful. But you do get the Giants, which was kind of close to making the list of positive teams in Dallas. Like Arizona, for me, is a team that I'm really trying to take behind. Like I'm trying to make sure I remember that, hey, these guys have a really tough early part of their schedule, at least from what we're expecting. So if we go and look on my thoughts on a bunch of these Arizona players, like Jeremiah Love, I'm ahead of Trey McBride due to the positional stuff, but I'm extraordinarily out on Michael Wilson. I'm extraordinarily out on Jeremiah Love, or pretty out on Jeremiah Love, I'd say. If not, I might want to be more than I am. Like, pull him back a little bit. Maybe pull up these receivers. Obviously, you're not really taking Brissett. Algier, I think, is cheap enough that you can play it a little bit differently. But, I mean, you just go down the list. I think Arizona is a really good example of a team that has, like, a particularly bad and, like, a particularly rough schedule. But Vegas has got a pretty good early schedule. You go against the Chargers, which is not great, but Miami and New Orleans should both be really, really nice games. And as you go on, in exchange for having to play the Patriots and the Rams, you get the Jets, and Buffalo especially has been a run funnel in recent times. So I think that's a good reason to be really in on Genty. Just continuing to look down the list for these first 3 weeks, there's not. It's kind of funny. There's not anyone who just like has this like really lackadaisical, like easy beginning to the year. You know, like everyone has at least one like pitfall of a game, and a lot of people have two. Oh yeah, Baltimore. That was the other team I wanted to talk about, because Indy is like a pretty neutral matchup. New Orleans, Dallas, Tennessee, Atlanta, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Buffalo. This is part of the reason why I'm so in on Derrick Henry. Is like these are all bad defenses or run funnels until you get to week 9. And then you're not even really facing tough defenses until week 10 and 12. Like this Baltimore schedule from a defensive standpoint is just an absolute cakewalk. And as long as we're comfortable with the Zay injury news, I think that's a reason why I'm really trying to push up my Derrick Henry exposure, why I'm really trying to push up my Zay exposure. But where is Zay in my ranks? Where'd he go? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to push him up. It's just all this stuff with neighbors makes it a little bit tougher. But, and Baltimore is such a concentrated offense. Probably should have Jacoby Lane. This is a star of camp on my rankings now. Yeah, so you got to really just be valuing them higher in this format what you care about at the beginning. Hello, Mother. It's good to see you. Always good to see my mother in the chat. Going along. Let's go back to the schedule. Yes. So Baltimore, I think, is probably my number one team that I'm trying to raise. Arizona is probably my number one team that I'm trying to lower based on this like early season schedule stuff. And there's like obviously like Carolina's a pretty good matchup whilst not being something that I'm like actively trying to give points for. Dallas also has a relatively easy schedule. Like Giants, Washington feels pretty good. Baltimore, I think, is on the positive side of 0. Houston's obviously on the negative side. Tampa and Green Bay, I think, are on the positive side. And getting this Philly is a little bit tough, but then you're feeling pretty good after Houston. You feel relatively good until you have to go into week 13, and then the end of the season kind of sucks. But we don't really care about that as much. Dallas is another team that I'm trying to like raise up because of their schedule quirks. Detroit, another one. This week 6 bye kind of sucks, but this early season schedule, man, it takes a while before you have anything that even resembles a rough defense. And then a lot of teams that you're expecting to push them with at the end of the season. That's another really nice team from that perspective. I already talked about Vegas. And then, oh yes, the Chargers. So the Chargers have a uniquely easy first 3 weeks. And then they have a uniquely tough next 3 weeks. Or next, really, 6 weeks. Like this Seattle, Denver, KC by Rams, Houston is just probably the nut low of any point in time for anyone's schedule. But getting into the money, someone like O'Marion Hampton or Keaton Mitchell, I think should be rated a little bit ahead because you have awful team run funnel. And then the wheels may start falling off. So the Chargers is like just a hard one for me to understand. But I think with O'Marion Hampton's price, you can give him a little bit of a bump just for getting you into the money and then trust the rest of your team the rest of the way. The Giants actually have an easier early season schedule than I thought they did. Dallas, Tennessee, Arizona, Washington, New Orleans before their bye. A little bit of hiccups with the Rams, Houston, and then Philly right after their bye, and a bit of a tougher after that. But the Giants are, reasonable early season schedule on the easy side. Yeah. SF is actually another team I'm looking at now. That's a rough schedule. Rams week 1 kind of sucks. Miami, Arizona feels good, but then Denver, Seattle in the first 5 weeks, like 3 of your first 5 being these -2 teams is quite rough. And then you have a little bit of a nice bump afterwards, but I think a lot of your McCaffrey and your Evans shares may have some serious problems dealing with Rams, Broncos, Seahawks. It's kind of tough there. I was debating on whether to put Cleveland in the -1 category. I ended up not with, Garrett not being there anymore and the culture being not as defensive minded. The culture just sort of being a shit show now. But I don't know. I'm definitely weighting it like as a slight negative. And then I want to just quickly finish out with a couple of more teams to avoid. Not like teams to avoid, but just like teams that are going to have tough schedules. Oh, the Bills. I forgot about the Bills. Yeah, the Bills are just absolute, like the opposite of schedule merchants before their bye. Like they have week 7 bye, which is already early. And you have Houston week 1, which is kind of rough. Detroit week 2, which is kind of rough, at least from a running back perspective. Chargers week 3, Patriots week 4, Rams week 5. This is another reason why I've been so out on James Cook, and I'm like very fine being out on James Cook, is I'm like, do I really want James Cook versus the Texans, the Lions, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Rams in these first 5 weeks? Or would I rather have, let's say, Kenneth Walker, who gets to go against Vegas, Miami, Indianapolis, has a bye, and then has one tough matchup in Denver? Would I rather have Ashton Genty, who gets to go up against Miami, New Orleans, Kansas City, and has a couple of rougher matchups with the Chargers in New England. Or who else is in that range? Derrick Henry. Yeah, every time I'd rather have Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry against New Orleans, Dallas, Tennessee, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Cleveland even versus James Cook against Houston, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Rams, and the Lions, and the Vegas. Like, it's just not even close for those first 6 weeks. It's not even close. It's good to like be looking at this stuff and then go, oh, yeah, no, this is there's a reason why I had my rankings the way I had them. There's a reason why I don't feel a super need to have James Cook. It's because his schedule sucks. And he's not that great to be able to like really overperform it. I don't think. Like, I would much rather have these running backs who are going to have good opportunities and good matchups and not just and are much less likely to just be super stifled these first couple of weeks. I'm trying to think. I thought Philly had a interesting schedule in one direction or the other, but looking at it, it's not like super duper great. I'm gonna look at the Rams schedule just to like have teams. Oh, Denver maybe. KC, Jacksonville, the Rams, San Francisco, Chargers, Seattle. Yeah, they're probably another like minor stay away team. Like, I really want to try and be staying away from Arizona, SF, Buffalo as much as possible. Like, really put those guys down the rankings. And then also kind of Denver and Denver having to play KC and Jacksonville. I think both of those guys, if I remember, their schedules were fine. Yeah, I mean, Cleveland, Denver, New England, Cincinnati, Philly, Houston, and Jacksonville's schedule is actually pretty tough. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm pretty happy locking this in, where it's like I think you really want to be looking to target players in the Eliminator from Baltimore, from Dallas, from Detroit, from Vegas, from the Giants, because they've got these early season schedules that are nice and easy, and they're generally offenses that we're relatively excited about. And then I think you want to really be worried about Arizona, San Francisco, Buffalo, Denver, and Jacksonville because they've got really, really rough early season schedules and stuff that you really want to be just careful about, that people aren't – this is not something you're thinking about in BBM. This is not something you're thinking about in, the Little Dalmatian 5. But it's stuff that can be helpful to think about in the Eliminator and is something that I want to just take the time, really think through as we're looking through these next rounds of picks. And I might put up a produced video about that. That seems like a pretty nice produced video topic. So put that on the burner. But we're here. We're ready to look at. I want to make sure, and I think I am really sticking to this in the first round. I have Amon-Ra ahead of ADP. I have CeeDee Lamb ahead of ADP. I have Ashton GT, I believe, 0.6 ahead of ADP. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A little bit ahead of ADP. Of these first round guys. Can't really have Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of ADP. And then if we're looking at, obviously, we have James Cook behind. I'm trying to actually figure out where I'm at with Love. I just having Love behind Williams. Jacobs with the injury, I maybe need to be a little bit less confident in. But having him behind Neighbors and Flowers means I'm almost never going to get Love, which is where I want to be more than anything else. I think CMC is the question that I want to consider is, do I want to move CNC behind Amon-Ra? I think the answer is no. But the fact that it's even a question, I think, is me showing respect for the schedule. Because CMC is just – he has number one overall fantasy implications and is a bigger threat in the receiving game. And the Niners schedule is bad but not awful. I think, like I said, the Vegas and Giants have little good schedules compared to Baltimore, Dallas, Detroit having really good schedules. I think Arizona, Buffalo, and Denver have really bad schedules, and SF and Jacksonville are kind of on the edge of a good or a bad schedule, or on the edge of the top 5. at least. So I think I'm happy with where I ended up with that. I do think so. Obviously, having Henry up there, yeah, this feels really nice. I'll make sure that's saved, and then go and make these picks. At 9, it's saying Gene T over CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb over Gene T. Part of this is a exposure balancing thing. Part of it is I want to be taking the Cowboys players. This is going to be another CeeDee Lamb with our first pick, but just a lot easier to say why. Very easy. Amon-Ra. We're getting a lot of these players that we're talking about from good offenses, good players, good offenses, easy schedules. That's where it feels nice to be. Good player, good offense, easy schedule. We clicked the wrong button. Whoopsies. We're back. CeeDee Lamb. Wow, this Frenchie Eliminator went fast. All right, we're at pick 44 in the 4th round. We started Christian McCaffrey, Malik Neighbors, and Brock Bowers. And by our ranks, Ted McMillan is top, followed by Quinton Judkins, Bucky, Tootin, and Swift. Psychic says Tootin. I agree that I think the structure really would like a running back here. I'm leaning towards Bucky as my choice over Swift. Bucky and Swift are the two that I'm really considering. I think with what we were talking about, I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical on Tootin than I was. I don't look closely at the Cleveland schedule. How is it? Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Pittsburgh. A lot of just average defenses to start off the year, and then hit Houston, and then a bunch of easier defenses to end the year. Yeah, just a relatively easy schedule for Cleveland. But a relatively easy schedule, but not for the Eliminator. Very average schedule in terms of the Eliminator stuff, and easier for BPM style contest, I would then imagine. So it's a bit tough. The argument for Swift is this is the main argument for me taking Swift here is 0% exposure to DeAndre Swift. I mean, do I really think DeAndre Swift can absolutely just destroy me and be the story of the season? I don't think so. So I don't think that's a really good reason to take Swift. I think Bucky Irving is much more likely to really break out or continue to do what he's doing and be really impactful at this price. Yeah, I think my TAP ranking is just too high. Probably. Yeah, I think we'll take Bucky here. And then go look at that T-Mac ranking. Yeah. I don't know why he's fallen. Because he used to be going around the T. Higgins and Live McConkeys of the world, but people just want running backs, I guess. Yeah, I guess. Interesting. No, I guess I'm actually pretty happy with that. I mean, the people I'm burying for him are Josh Allen and DeAndre Swift and Emeka Egbuka, people that I don't want. I feel pretty comfortable, at least in teams that have started heavy running back, doing that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel comfortable with that. This one, we're in the 3rd round of the Frenchie Eliminator 2. We got McCaffrey in London as our start. And we're saying Rashee Rice as our guy. I'm debating between Rice and Flowers. I want the answer to be Flowers because of what we've been talking about with the schedule and really, really easy, really nice schedule, really good connection. But I think if people have injury FUD at all with Flowers, that could lower his price and make it so that I have better shares to be taking more of later. And we all know that Rice is just like a fantasy cheat code, like really just a fantasy cheat code. So I think we'll go ahead and take Rice here. Although I did see reports this morning that people are saying that Neighbors may be there for week 1. And if Neighbors is there for week 1 and you get him in the 3rd round, that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good, I'd say. Getting a lot of CD Lamb here today, which is nice on the day that we're talking about easy schedules. And we get to take someone with a pretty nice and early easy schedule. Giants, Washington, Baltimore feels good. Tampa Bay feels really good. Arizona feels really good. Green Bay's like a neutral matchup. And, we just don't think about week 4 too much. Like, these things happen. You got to play your schedule at some point. Having one bad week in the first 8 is, I still think, very indicative of a good schedule. Drake London versus Nico Collins. Here, we had that same discussion yesterday. We ended up going London. I think we're going to go London. Again, balance the exposures a little bit. I don't think Nico Collins is a significantly better pick than London. And it's obviously nice to be taking London on teams where we don't have 2 week 11 buys back to back. Now, this is probably going to be a tough one. This, it's definitely one of Neighbors or Flowers. I think, do I really have that much Neighbors now? Like, there was a time that I had 0 Neighbors, and now I think I may have overcorrected. Yeah, because I'm like, well, I felt like I was taking 0, and we got really, really good injury news. And so I moved him up a lot. So there was a bunch of drafts back-to-back that I was taking him. So I think we'll cool it on that a little bit. Grab Zay Flowers here. He's got a quad bruise. He should be fine. And they get to play a bunch of cupcakes the first weeks. So put up your numbers, Zay. I really do believe that you can do it. And we're here in the 2nd round with this one. We took Amon-Ra with our first pick. I think I agree. Kenneth Walker, the number 2 pick. Feels pretty good. There. Yeah. Yeah, and we can cool it on Hampton, I think, a little bit. Just because I really was looking, like, when I did the first iteration of this, I was just looking at the first 3 weeks. And the Chargers' first 3 weeks are awesome. They're absolutely awesome in terms of getting easy defenses. But once you go further on from that, it gets real tough real fast. So I think pumping back on my enthusiasm for Marion Hampton is probably prudent. Is almost certainly prudent. Not a ton, but just, maybe he goes behind Bowers for a little bit. Maybe we take Bowers over Hampton just for a smidgen of time. But yeah, so that'll be it for this morning. I'll be back on later tonight in about 8 hours, I think, is the hope, around 8:30 Eastern, to do our nighttime picks. And probably talk more about the scheduling stuff. I it's very interesting, and I want to really have a good deep dive, have a good understanding of the matchups and everything, and be able to talk through it with you guys. So thank you very much for joining me here this morning, and I will see you guys tonight. Bye-bye.